We're in the Washington, D.C. area. We're actually in a national park that is the GW Parkway. As you can see, very noisy, but behind me, right behind me is Georgetown, and beneath Georgetown you can see tall buildings out there that are Arlington, and you should be able to see the Washington Memorial in the distance. So I wanted to do a quick, greetings Jerry, wanted to give you guys a quick view here. It is noisy, and I'm not going to speak on our topic until I get back in the car, but I wanted you guys to get a look at what the view, and behind me is the Potomac River. I think it's kind of cool view out here. Very chilly, I'm freezing, but I wanted to give you guys the view from where we're shooting from today. And I'm gonna switch up and jump in the car so I don't freeze to death. And again, kind of a panoramic view of sort of the scenic overlook that we're at. All right. Well, welcome back once again. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Today's topic focuses on the fact that Tesla is teaching, good morning Z-Tech Labs. This video is focused on the fact that Tesla, greetings from Sweden, friends. This video focuses on a few topics today. The first topic we're dealing with is the fact that there's an accident that occurred with a Model X. The driver perished because of high temperatures in the vehicle. We're sort of going to go through a discussion of that and some of the implications of that I wanted to have us thinking about. The second thing I wanted to review is that it turns out that Daimler, etc., has been saying that Tesla can't compete. But it's my argument that Tesla is actually teaching Daimler as well as GM and other VW, etc., how to do trucks as well as cars in combination profitably. Greetings, Richard from Utah. Thanks for joining us. The third topic I wanted to get into is, I'll make it a surprise for today, but obviously you'll see as we get into it. It sort of feeds off the first two topics that we've covered, and it kind of focuses on what I call insanity, and you'll sort of see what I mean in terms of Tesla being sort of insane, and the fact that that insanity is being brought forward successfully, and it makes other people look insane even though Tesla's putting stuff out there. So I think you'll enjoy the dialogue. So our first topic today is, I do have the photo there of that I have as the thumbnail that you guys will be seeing, and it's basically a still burning Model S in a place called Mountain View, California. The Model X was going south. It hit the barrier. The car then was hit by 2 or 3 other vehicles, which caused it to go up in flames. One of the unique things that occurred is that the engineers at Tesla's headquarters and the manufacturing facilities are within 10 miles of where this accident occurred. So it's a unique situation because they were allowed to go on scene, and after everybody checked everything out and took photos, Tesla was allowed to take the battery back to the factory, and they're running tests on it, etc. And it'll be interesting to see if there are any new changes that they choose to make on how batteries are protected, etc., by what happened in this accident, which is unfortunate, obviously, for the people who died, etc. But I wanted to take some time to sort of play with this, because as Tesla becomes more popular, etc., there are new things that are being developed. And one of them is the fire department has to actually be trained on how to deal with situations like this when an electric vehicle explodes. What was explained, if you read about it, is that Tesla is saying water, water, and more water is what's needed. The problem you run into is the amount of water that a fire truck can put on a fire is limited to how much is in the truck, because at this spot in California, there's it's a high density area where people live along the freeway, so they have these giant freeway walls. So there's no way for them to get water from fire hydrants nearby. They're kind of stuck in a situation where they have to get the water from the fire truck, and once that runs out, that's all that's available. So the fire was put out. Unfortunately, the driver perished. And one of the questions that comes up is there new training needed for the fire departments relative to accidents related to electric vehicles, including Tesla, or not? And we're going to find that out, relatively soon. But I did want to raise the issue of the fact that what we figure out on this may be a retraining that needs to be done around the world for future accidents that might occur with electric vehicles. The second thing I wanted to cover today is focused on Tesla teaching Daimler and others both trucking and how to do electric vehicles. So one of the things I've been having fun with is the fact that both Nikola and Daimler have claimed that Tesla really can't compete in trucks, and they're not great, and having a number of good reasons. For example, the lack of a footprint around the globe to service those clients. So the last video that we did, as you saw, there's a picture of a semi-truck in Dallas, Texas, that had pulled up to a service facility with a Model 3 sitting next to it. And what was interesting about that is the fact that because you're using the same battery as well as several Model 3 engines, I think several Model 3 motors, you have a situation there where right now, as Tesla's employees are trained on the Model 3s, and the parts for those Model 3s are being stocked at these facilities, you now have the possibility that the first recipients of the semi-trucks, they have large repair facilities. For example, UPS or Walmart, etc., have large facilities that will have their own superchargers as well as their own repair facilities. But what's nice is that because the Model 3 shares so many parts with the truck, you can actually source your parts from a local car. And I think this is fascinating because in business there's a concept called economies of scale. And what that means is that the more of something you make, the cheaper it is. Well, if you have a truck and a car that are sharing a lot of parts, you now can make more of those parts, and it's spread across more vehicles. So therefore, you get nice economies of scale, and repair and all other costs are lowered in this process. So I believe it's quite possible that as Daimler and others come after Tesla in the electric space, they're going to be ending up in the same position, which is a sharing of parts across trucks and cars, which isn't currently done. Now, there is one question that this does raise, which is Tesla has said that there'll be no maintenance costs on their trucks until you get to 1 million miles. And they're sharing parts with the Model 3, but Tesla's only guaranteeing 60,000 miles of battery non-degradation on the Model 3s. And so one of the questions that pops up there is Tesla using the same battery pack between the truck and the Model 3, or is it a different battery pack? We know that the engine parts, door handle, screens, all these different things are being shared between the truck and the Model 3. But, if in fact the truck can go 1 million miles, what's up with the car? Why can't the car go 1 million miles as well, especially given that they're sharing parts between the two vehicles? So it's an interesting sort of challenge, question we don't know the answer to. But as all you guys know, what we specialize in is sort of speculation on what's going on with the trucks and why and how it's going to work in the future. And how this whole process works, we'll be learning more about as it evolves. But it is powerful to have a spread of parts across trucks and cars, because now you have the possibility of lower inventories around the world. And this is even a more incentive for truckers to buy the vehicle, because I actually spoke with a 10,000 unit trucking company, and what they said was, look, the trucks that are currently running on natural gas are good vehicles, but the problem is you have long distance truckers that end up in middle of nowhere locations, and they've got to find a way to both repair vehicles and get parts in those places. And if you can't do that, it's not worth the switch, because there is downtime that pops up, and that needs to be addressed. So the final thing that I wanted to address is something that I call craziness, cognitive dissonance when it comes to Tesla and what they're doing. So what I'm fascinated by is there's a number of things that people are claiming cannot be done, and then well, hey, thanks for the applicant suggestion. I don't know if you saw it, but Tesla has 10,000 applications for 400 or 500 positions. So I think it's a good company. They're doing a great job. But as a result, the demand for opportunities to work there is rather stiff. And I've seen a lot of the salespeople side changing over fast. So yeah, thank you for the input. So I wanted to get into, so what we end up is some interesting questions are popping up. One example of those questions is what I just shared with you, is, wait a second, if the parts are shared between two vehicles, Elon Musk is saying the truck will go 1,000,000 miles. Is it possible I can get my Model 3 to go 1,000,000 miles? And we don't have an answer for that yet, particularly because they're sharing parts. So again, in the case of trucks, you usually have a situation where trucks usually have the kind of parts that can be swapped out and rebuilt and then put back into the truck. And so what's going to happen with the Model 3? Are we going to kind of see some underlying capabilities that are lurking there? So the last part of what I wanted to get into maybe is kind of the insanity of Tesla, is a discussion focused on what is going to happen going forward. So the issue right now is every day, like I got a request from one of our Patreon subscribers, and we'd love for you to support us with $1 or $2 a month. Would be greatly appreciated on Patreon. But we had a really interesting question pop up regarding what about all the new vehicles that are coming up, and those vehicles actually have battery life that's pretty good, etc. Well, one of the issues that you may want to review is, remember, there was our Dave Duff interview. And in that interview, Dave talked about the fact that what Tesla did was figured out the company with the highest density for the battery pack, and that's who they went with. So what that means then is that there are subtle differences, in this case, the highest density being from Panasonic that Tesla has made, and those choices sort of bleed out to sort of better execution. So one of the execution that nobody's discussing that I think is important is that with a very small sample size, what we're finding is over a 5-year period, there's about a 10% battery degradation for the Model S. For the Nissan Leaf, over a 5-year period, we're seeing greater than 50% battery degradation. Now, several of our viewers have talked about the fact that one of the key differences between the two vehicles is the fact that they're using air to cool the Nissan Leaf in many cases versus a liquid cooling process that Tesla uses, which causes less battery degradation because you can either add cold or remove or heat as needed much more efficiently with the liquid that Tesla uses, and therefore the batteries are better cared for. So what I find fascinating is that I feel like it's once a week, once every other week, it's announced that Tesla will be totally destroyed by VW or Mercedes or other companies. But the issue is that there are a whole bunch of performance parameters beyond the battery. There's how do they cool those batteries? There's how much battery density did they start with? There's all these questions regarding other companies where you have sort of defined answers right in your hand right away for Tesla, and you have data over time to show that. So I just think that the Tesla's business is done because some competitor has come out with this or that product, and it's a great idea. I think that's ridiculous. I will say that the new Jaguar all electric looks really good. The early statistics are great on the vehicle, but the EV market is huge, and I think that it's it's doable. Now we're at 16 minutes right now. Just a reminder, please like and subscribe. Please also, we could use some support on Patreon. $1 or $2 would be great per day, would be greatly appreciated, or per month would be greatly appreciated. And our Patreon is on our previous videos, and once this one is completed, our handle, Tesla Advisor on Patreon, is the destination for supporting the channel. So it's Patreon/Tesla Advisor is the name of our Patreon page. So I've been getting a chance to meet some really interesting people over the recent past. And I wanted to close out today with the fact that I met a dentist today, and there are a few suggestions that were made that you should consider that I didn't know. One, flossing daily. You probably already know that. Two, she suggested getting what's called a fluoride rinse, and ACT is a brand that she recommended. And the reason is that we're eating a lot of acidic foods, and that might be helpful in terms of making sure you preserve, using a fluoridated wash will help preserve your teeth versus them having more problems. The third suggestion she made I liked is that there's something called hydrogen peroxide, and once a week I'll gargle with it and then spit it out. And I reviewed that with her, and she said she thought it was actually a pretty good idea. Just be careful with it, but also a good hygiene method, lower bad breath, and probably a good thing to add to your schedule of cleaning. And definitely brushing twice a day, making sure you brush gums and teeth for about 5 minutes per encounter is a good idea. So yes, it is random, but just thought I'd share it. Excellent question there regarding why wouldn't people want to go the 1,000,000 miles in their Model 3? And that's what I'm wondering. And if you're using the same motors and the battery is the same, why wouldn't the car go that far? And I don't have the answer to that question yet. The answer may be that the battery is different between the truck. The battery part is different while many of the other parts are not. That is a possibility, and we'll learn more about that as we go forward. And actually might be worth a tweet to Elon to ask about that, because he's not guaranteeing 1,000,000 miles in your Model 3. He's only guaranteeing 60,000 miles before you have battery degradation. So I think I'm going to leave it at that today. We're encouraged to keep it in that 20-minute zone. Once again, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. I know some of you guys are going to give me a hard time about my location. It's nice to work in the studio and edit and go that process, but it also is nice to sort of get out and look at some views and enjoy the beauty, particularly as we get out of the winter months. Excellent points there being made by everyone that I've seen has been making some good comments. I have to admit, I can see your comments, and I'm trying to comment on ones that come in line with what I'm discussing, but I'm choosing not to respond to every single thing, only because it makes the video very choppy for those who may not be able to see your comments, etc. And I like to make progress in terms of what our conversation is versus not making progress because I have to say hello to everyone that's responded. So again, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. I wanted to again encourage you to take time to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. Please, on Patreon/Tesla Advisor is our Patreon handle, and we'd love to get some support from you. And we're now developing sort of a unique exposure to us and to information for those folks who've done that. Would appreciate a dollar or two support, because we'd love to keep doing this, etc. Also wanted to note, just got my real estate license, and I'm doing that between the part and full time, and would love to get any opportunity to help you buy or sell anywhere in the United States would be greatly appreciated. And we actually have capabilities to do international as well, so if you're in that mode, we'd love to get that opportunity. And again, I agree it's bad we're outdoors, but you got to admit the view's pretty good. And hey, thank you very much, Frederick. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for your comments. Z-Tech Labs, even though I don't know your first name. Would also love your comments at the end of our videos. If you have any suggestions, please be forewarned that we are Tesla Fan Insight. So if you say mean and nasty things about Elon or Tesla, you may not get much response from me. You'll probably get more response from everybody else. But you know, we've definitely stated sort of our intentions, and we don't want to violate. Not that I don't want to violate it. We want Tesla to succeed in what they're trying to do with electric, and so any way we can be helpful in that process is the goal. So, as usual, today, tschüss, macht's gut, German, au revoir, à bientôt, French, lahit rot, Hebrew, Choda Hafez, Farsi, and I have to admit I forgot my Polish goodbye already, which is not good. But in Jamaica we say "Walk good man, enough respect." Thanks again for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you guys next week. If you could take a time to comment on, is Sunday better than Saturday? What we noticed was we were getting a lot more folks that were able to join us live on a Sunday than we were on a Saturday. So I decided to sort of try it out for 2 or 3 weeks to see what ended up happening, to see if we go back to Saturday. It turns out that sort of folks, that some of our Jewish folks, their Sabbath is on Saturday, and so that's bad news. So we're trying to play around with what actually might work, and your input is greatly appreciated in terms of the decisions that we make. Thanks again, and look forward to your comments.